That's all I have to say. I want to turn it over to Jim and then Dr. Sacker before we conclude, okay?
Great. I will have us finished early, I promise. Thank you for your attention. This is about not how we're going to be teaching our fellows to do endoscopy, but it's how we're going to be continuing to mentor one another as faculty members, senior faculty members to junior faculty members. It's a new initiative with the Department of Medicine. Oh, where's my talk? That was right after mine, right here. Sorry about that. New initiative with the Department of Medicine to try to make Mount Sinai really a leader in mentoring. Now listen, the GI division is the Hall of Fame of mentoring. I'm sitting here with my mentor, David Sackar, Jerry Way, Bruce Sands mentors me to this day. We need to try to formalize this a little bit more, not destroy it by formalizing it, but try to bring it not just within the division, keeping it very siloed, but to see if we can extend it across the Department of Medicine and break down some of the barriers and enjoy the fruits of some of the resources throughout the Department of Medicine. Hopefully improve our retention of faculty and bring on more success for the division. Mentees are any junior faculty up to the associate rank or any new faculty at Sinai within the last 3 years. Senior faculty should be outside of the mentees division, but it's not absolutely necessary, and they can even be outside of the institution. The idea here is to have at least one meeting a year. You know, in the old days, this was happening more naturally. We had more time. People had the time to sit down, check in with somebody for lunch, check in with somebody for an evening. We aren't doing that anymore, and we really need to schedule it and formalize it. So again, preparing for these meetings, trying to make them very productive ahead of time. And these are some of the things to keep in mind, just for personal development plans. Fill out an encounter sheet. The research arm of all of our departments and divisions tend to do this automatically at Sinai, but again, it's very lab specific and very siloed. This is going to try to bring it into the outside of just the basic research track into the other academic tracks, the practice track, and the clinical track as well. Collaborations, current and planned funding sources, having a list of items that should be discussed that the senior mentor can confer onto the mentee. Exposure profiles, teaching activities for the teaching track, administrative surface practice track. These are things to keep in mind. The idea here is to try to improve the overall sense of connection among the junior and senior faculty members throughout the Department of Medicine. So the idea would be at least once a year, preferably twice, beforehand preparing the CV, getting ready for the meeting. Mentors, again, be available for meetings, be available for urgent situations. Keep that connection. The idea here is to genuinely try to connect. What is my role and why am I bringing this up now? I'm going to be reaching out to each and every one of you and to other members of the Department of Medicine to start the matching process. So when I want you to start thinking about who would I like to match with? What senior faculty, which junior faculty member would I like to connect with? Maybe they're working on something in basic science that I think would apply to my clinical work. Maybe we can turn this mentoring relationship into something that could be a collaboration, or I could learn from or grow from. If we're going to make Mount Sinai a place where people really want to come and really want to stay, this is a critical piece because this is happening at many other academic centers automatically throughout the country. And I think Sinai should take a leadership role here. We have the substrate, so you'll be hearing more about this program going forward, and you'll be hearing from me. So think about it. I'm planting a seed, and thank you for your time. I hope I did.
I wanted to conclude, actually, by going back to what David Greenwald said earlier near the beginning. I'm just exhilarated, and I find it exhilarating and heartwarming that sessions are now beginning on the issue of faculty development and focusing on the question of how to teach, because as Bruce said in the opening remarks, teaching is not only the most important thing we do here, but as a medical school we are unique in teaching people how to be doctors. Clinics and hospitals and other places treat people, and research laboratories and graduate schools and pharma industrial laboratories do research, but only medical schools teach doctors how to be doctors. And I feel that there are, since you are asking, Bruce and Bridget, ideas for future sessions, I wanted to comment on what I think are 4 pillars of faculty development and teaching that could use some strengthening here. One you touched on as feedback, but I haven't seen enough corrective feedback going on in my 45 years here or something. There are about 4 faculty members already that I can remember within the last few years that when I was in clinic and they were fellows in the clinic, we actually had to take the time to sit down and do some corrective feedback as to where there were deficiencies in history, physical examination, case formulation, presentation, differential diagnosis, therapeutic plan. We are afraid to do that. I think we're afraid to sit down sometimes and tell people what they need to do better. So that's one thing I think we have to do. A second pillar that I think needs to be strengthened is feedback to faculty. The fellows are always asked to provide their evaluations of us and what they like and what they don't like. But I'd like to see more specific feedback from fellows' evaluations to us as faculty members. Some of you may remember the letters I used to send out as division chief summarizing for you what fellows' evaluations said, and I think we need that. Third, we've talked a little bit about the mini clinical exercise. It had been very formalized for quite a few years that every fellow every year had a bedside examination with observation from beginning to end, from introduction to history, physical exam, the whole bit, and then a discussion afterwards as to the formulation and the laboratory and what to do. And too often we can check off here on these evaluations, physical examination, not observed. Well, I don't think there's a place for that anymore. I think we have to formalize this thing of the regular bedside observed examination. I went through all of medical school 4 years without ever once having had a faculty member watch me do a history and physical. I had a 4th-year student do it for me when I was a 2nd-year or 3rd-year student. And finally, I think the 4th pillar that we can strengthen is helping our faculty with presentation skills. And when fellows and junior faculty present, I think either before they do a presentation or after they have done their presentation, we really ought to take them aside. It doesn't have to be in public, but we ought to take them aside and give them very specific and detailed advice. We do it a little bit when we do DDW previews or something. We say, well, I think the title should be a little this, or maybe you could do a little that, and it's 1 minute too long. But I think that a real session on the skills of presentation are key. Finally, I should just say, don't forget that we have an Institute for Medical Education. I'm an advanced member of that institute, and every so often, if you bother looking at your emails, you will see that the IME announces a faculty development workshop precisely on these issues: how to give feedback, how to observe at a bedside, how to critique a presentation and teach people how to do better public presentations and slides and posters and so forth and so on. Take advantage of that. It's free, and sometimes they give lunch. And so it's really worth taking advantage of what the Institute for Medical Education has to offer. So that's it. My real congratulations to you, Bridget, for having put together such an important session.